Hello, my fellow readers. It's I, Dark Symphony 777 with another fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story, and finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, the story I am reviewing this time is Coby's Choice Paradise by Sword of the Gods. And oh boy, this is gonna be something because there's a very specific reason why I looked up this story. We'll get to that when we get to that. But first, I want to at least bring up the premise. Is actually pretty cool. So as you know, One Piece is one of those fan fiction where a lot of people tend to do like retellings, like, oh, what would happen if this happened or this happened, or more likely it's usually like a Peggy Sue s thing where Luffy, or I think in like one case, Nami and Usopp go back in time, and then the story just kind of retells itself with like knowledge and a change. And this one's no different. So the idea is, if you've never seen One Piece before, early in the story, like the very first episode, we're going by anime logic because this one follows more of the anime than the manga. In episode 1, we're introduced to a boy named Coby, who works for Iron Ace Almeida. She gets rescued by Luffy when Luffy beats Almeida, and then Coby reveals that he wants to become a Marine. So it's like, okay, fine. They go to Shell's Town where they meet Zoro, and they beat this guy, X-Head Morgan. And they basically, now it's Luffy and Zoro. And at the end of Shell's Town, a group of Marines come in and tell Luffy and Zoro, you gotta leave. Say that, well, you're pirates, but we'll give you a pass since Axon Morgan was very corrupt, and thus, we'll let you leave without like any consequence. So Luffy and Zoro, they about to leave when the Marines spot Coby, and they realize, wait, he was with them. And so the Marines ask him, are you with the Straw Hat Kid? And then Luffy starts talking shit to basically rile Coby up to attack Luffy, and so that way he'll be able to get into the Marines and accomplish his dream. In this story, everything happens the same until that decision, until Luffy starts goading Coby. And instead of fighting Luffy, Kobe's like, yeah, I'm with him. And so it's basically the entire Paradise area of One Piece from Shell's Town to Marineford, with the difference being that Kobe joins and all the consequences that follow into it. And honestly, when I first read the synopsis, it's like, oh, that's actually sounds pretty cool. Like it's nothing complicated. It's very straightforward and to the point. It's like, what would happen if Kobe says yes? What would happen? Oh, all this would happen. 500,000 words of what would happen. And if we do follow, like the all the arcs, it pretty much follows it pretty faithfully, more or less, with the exception of Long Ring Long Island, which actually doesn't happen in this story because it's canon, but it's still filler because it's just setting up for Aokiji showing up, and thus I think Foxy does show up much, much, much later in Alabasta. In what was the chapter? I didn't actually read this chapter. This is like the only chapter of the story I didn't read, but I did see Foxy show up. So I know Foxy does show up, just much, much later. So Long Ring Long Island doesn't happen. And then also Impel Down doesn't technically, we don't see. It does happen the same as in canon, but because the story focuses on Coby and not Luffy, so the story doesn't have Impel Down because Kobe's actually locked up with Ace on level 6. So we don't actually go read through what might have changed with Impel. More likely that it stays the same. But that's semantics. Then there's also two anime only arcs. There's the Rainbow Mist arc, and I think there was two other arcs. There's two anime arcs. There's Rainbow Mist, and then what was the other one? Yeah, here's Rainbow Mist. What was the other one? I know there was two. Um, oh yeah, the little East Town arc. Because also Dead End Adventures, the fourth movie. I can't remember. I can't remember if it's the fourth movie. Regardless, Dead End Adventures and also Strong World are in this story. Strong World at least makes sense because Shiki is canon to One Piece, but he's with Rob. But we don't know where he is at officially, canonically. Same thing with Uta. But yeah, when it comes to the plot overall, it is followed more or less faithfully. There is some changes, and that's kind of where the problem starts. Is it follows a little too faithfully to One Piece because it doesn't really change up enough. Because okay, what big changes to the overall plot happens? Well, since Kobe's with Luffy, he doesn't become a Marine, which is probably the biggest one. Uh, Luffy learns hockey earlier, not much earlier, because you do see hints of it in the story in his second fight against Crocodile, but it's more subconscious than anything else. Like he doesn't really fully learn uh, hockey, at least armament hockey, until Marineford. So it's not that much early, but still, he still learns it, and he does. And I think the only thing he doesn't learn fully is Conquerors, because I think he needs to actually learn that. I still think he learns that from Rayleigh, but he knows it exists. He knows that he does get the armor in hockey, and he does learn. He does know of observation hockey, but he knows of observation as mantra. Um, but yeah, what's there's a couple other minor differences. Like they do get more members of the crew. They get like six members. I only care about five. I don't care about Billy. I don't care that much about Billy because he's just there, and he's just which are Coby, obviously, Jin. Jin. That's the reason they joined Jin is actually something of a realistic thing. Is when Luffy's fighting Don Krieg. Krieg fires the gas bomb. Um, Due to the fact Jin is not weakened at the time, so him and Sanji are both able to get gas mask, and Kobe actually puts the gas mask on Luffy, and then he nearly starts dying, and then Luffy actually kills Don Krieg. Like he literally the difference, I guess you could say, in this story from the plot is it's more realistic and more pragmatic. Because there's a lot of people who actually die, but again, it keeps up the idea that we don't want them to die. We don't want to kill people if we don't have to. But if they're a big enough threat, then we're kind of gonna have to, which is fine. So go back to Krieg. He kills Krieg. Since Krieg basically threw Jin off the crew before he died, Luffy said, "You want to come down?" He's like, "All right." And so he joins. And the next two members are Amy and Grace. They go by different names because this story came out before the Baroque's work Vivid cards, or if you go by their like names. It's Miss Golden Week, the little painter girl with the killer traps, and then Miss Valentine, who has like the wait fruit with the with the umbrella. They join because Coby just basically asks Miss Golden Week, like, "Do you want to join?" Sure. Hey sis, you want to join? Why? Crocodile's doing bad things. Okay. And then later, and then much later they get married, going married because this one actually explores the wood fairies, the Clabbermont. Cannot pronounce that thing word. Clabbertomons, and has Mary show up much earlier around Skypiea as a Clabbertomon. And so once they find out that Mary is not going to make it, Mary manages to find the strength to, at the end of Innie's lobby, Mary starts breaking down, saves her from the Buster Call, and then as they're entering Water 7, they say that we're gonna try and keep you alive and keep you with the crew. And as the going Mary splits down the middle, Mary, using the last of her strength, actually controls the ropes around the ship, basically wraps it around herself, and just tightens it so she is able to keep floating into the workshop where Iceberg and everyone else they basically rip off the sheep mast and turn it into like a little heart, and Mary's able to use that as like a heart to keep her alive. And so she joins, and she basically just and she's kind of cute. She's adorable, but I can't. Yeah, you could tell there's not much of a difference in the plot when I'm more talking about like the differences. That kind of that says all you need to know about the actual plot of the story, because it and why I have a problem with it is it just stays it is too faithful to One Piece. Like it doesn't change enough. And yeah, there is merit to wanting to keep things as samey as possible. But I think with like such it is, and Kobe's not important enough to really warrant that. So I can kind of see the reason why it just it doesn't really make for enjoyable reading if you actually read the manga, which is what I kind of do. I kind of keep up through the manga, through like the reading scans or looking at like YouTubers. It's not really. I can't really, since I'm always busy. I can't really find the time to actually read the mangas themselves. So I just try and keep up. I just try and keep up to date on that. Also, if you don't read any spoilers about Vivi in my community post, just don't look at it. You know who I'm talking about. Don't look at it. Don't do it. Um, but yeah, I don't really know what else to say about the plot, because it just I didn't even say that since the Whitebeard crew doesn't separate. Yeah, it still stays aside because Moby Dick actually becomes a Clobbermon and said, well, if this little carrot had the balls to reveal herself to the world, then I will too. Fedor! Don't hurt my shipmates. Behold my hammer. But yeah, it just stays too close. I don't really have much to say about the plot. There are some, like I said, there are other minor changes, but they're just so minor that they don't really matter. Besides the crew adjustments, characters, and this is darn, I thought that. When it comes to the crew, this oh boy, this is gonna be hurt. This is gonna hurt because I have to talk about the crew. I think this is probably the worst. The characters are probably the worst part of the story. I have nothing against Coby, Jin, Miss Valentine, Miss Golden Week, Mary, Nami, and Luffy because since there's more people joining, you figured, oh, the characters are going to change. But then we have a problem where only Luffy and Nami have slightly different characters. Now you're thinking, well, that doesn't seem so bad. After all, it's trying to keep towards mainly the same direction in terms of plot, just more realistic. But here's the thing: why would the author go out of his way or her way to change Luffy and Nami, but not change anyone else? Doesn't change Zoro. Doesn't change. The only changes Luffy and Nami. It doesn't really make much sense because like it's expecting you to automatically know. And here's the worst part: the author is trying to automatically expect you to know immediately what happens in between uh, the stories. Like for instance, with Ini's Lobby, the fight against Jabra, not Luffy's fight, Sanji's fight against Jabra doesn't happen. That actually is the last fight that happened in this story of Ini's Lobby. They start fighting as Luffy's like almost done fighting Lucci. Like that's just weird. And it's like, oh, so you're automatically supposed to know about the whole thing with the Diablo Jamba and stuff like that because they give lampshades. Like, why is your foot on fire? Don't question it. Like, it's the authors automatically expect you to know what happens away from focus on Coby because the story focuses a lot on the new castmate, or if it doesn't, it focuses on Luffy and Nami. And it's just a really weird writing decision. And that's not even that. The worst part is on that front. Because I'm going to be talking about the Coby and everyone a bit. The other Straw Hats when they do show up, they turn into caricatures for the most part. Like Zoro starts out with wanting to train Coby because Coby basically begs Zoro. It's like, I don't want to be a cowboy. Teach me how to be stronger. It's like Zoro's like, all right, I'm gonna train you, and basically just runs him ragged until Kobe's able to get stronger. But then the last lesson was like in Whiskey Peak, where Zoro and Kobe kind of team up. Well, Kobe, Zoro, and Yin team up to fight Baroque Works. But after that, Zoro's just literally relegated to like a running gag of his direction. His sense of direction is so bad he literally warps reality. I'm not even joking. I'm not joking. They literally have in the story in Thriller Bark, him and Robin are literally walking in the middle of the forest, and he walks around a tree, and then they just suddenly appear in Moria's mansion. And even Robin's confused, like, weren't we in the forest? So like the ground just and Zoro's like the earth moved around me. And it's just this is what Zoro's been reduced to, and I'm literally just frustrated with it. And it's not even just Zoro. Usopp barely has a character. He only really gets some semblance of character when Mary joins the crew, and he's basically acting as a doting father, basically telling her you gotta stop the language. He gives up near the end, which at least it's something. And then Sanji becomes a one dimension, like literally a caricature as well, because if he's not insulting Zoro or Luffy, because guess what, Luffy marries Nami in the story. he's doing something. He's basically wanting to. Oh, if he's not insulting one of them, he's basically asking, trying to suck up to the women, to the point where like they're even like disgusted at the beginning when it's like, oh, you got Bert, you better not have gotten uh, a bathing suit for Grace. It's like, no, I didn't have one her size. What? And then after that, Chopper just feels there. Robin just feels there. Just a one note joke of just her being basically the dark joke person. Frankie is there, and there's a late moment in Thriller Bark where Moria takes Frankie's shadow instead of Luffy's because Moria, because since he finds out that Luffy's exhibiting Conqueror's Hockey, he's like, no, that's not even, that I'm not even gonna risk that. And you have Brooke, who's like, who's just there. If he's not hitting someone with like the sword thing, he's asking them for their panties. Typical, just Brooke stuff, but it's just you can't. This just screams like a case of have your cake and eat it too. It's like you're doing you went out of your way to change Luffy and Nami, but you didn't go out of your way. Not only did you not show any character interactions between any of the other crewmates, and Coby Grace at all, but then you also have the nerve to turn them all into caricatures, which really is really disappointing. It really sinks the story down a lot. I will give the author credit. I do like Luffy. I do like Nami, and I like all the other characters except for Billy, because Billy's just there. Billy! I just like the name of saying Billy. Billy! Okay, so moving on. Let's just get to the characters that I do like. Luffy and Nami. I do like that you took a more pragmatic approach with them. Like after Luffy beats Arlong, instead of thanking him, Nami just basically makes out with Luffy. They have a more realistic approach towards fighting enemies because there's a part where they're at Logtown Marine. They get attacked by Marines. They're like hotter, and they're like all about the fight to knock them out. And then Gin just calmly pulls out a gun, shoots the guy in the face, and kills him. And basically, all the entire crew just glares at him. It's like, what? 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 And it basically, it still keeps that vibe of One Piece, which I can at least appreciate in the fact that the story does still feel like One Piece, despite the minimal changes and despite the fact the author is trying very very hard to add all these dimensions. It still feels like One Piece. There's still a lot of humor. There's still a lot of things. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to the characters. Luffy is more pragmatic. He understands. He basically enforces a no killing rule. Basically, if a threat's big enough, he's like, yeah, now throw out. It's gone. It's gone for now. Take this guy down. He's a threat to everyone. Take him out. But he will call anyone out if they try to break that rule, like Gin did, or anything else. Ooh, this so. But Luffy, he does become more mature. Like he becomes more smarter. He actually becomes more polite. Like when it comes to food, he's still bothering Sanji a lot for food, but he's also like politely asking Nami, "Can I have a tangerine, please?" And cares more deeply about the crew and keeping them alive. And he's willing to kill and stuff like that. Nami more or less just acts like Nami, just more actiony, like an action version of Nami. Like there's a fight with Miss Golden Finger, not Miss Golden Finger, Miss Double Finger. There we go. That's such a weird name. That is such a weird name for a character, Double Finger. In Alabasta, in canon, Nami doesn't know how they get the climate tech to work, but in this story, Nami basically curves Thomas Double Finger because she actually knows how to work the thing and basically just shots her, more or less. And then it leads to the fact that she's actually hyper competent with the climate attack. Is more brave. She's more confident in herself when it comes to fighting. She provides like the brains to Luffy's brawn sort of thing, so they kind of do work together at times, and it does give their characters to specifically together a nice little wrinkle that is different enough from canon that I can really touch upon it. But then you got the other characters. You have Coby, who's basically Coby. Kind of. First thing I like to note with the Coby thing is he does get a devil fruit. And it's the Triceratops devil fruit. For those of you who don't know, if you never read One Piece or watch One Piece, the Triceratops fruit is actually a real fruit belonging to this fucker. Sasuke of the Beast Pirates, of the Topiropo. The fact that this guy in 2016 basically predicted that there was going to be a Triceratops fruit, actually kind of hilarious. But I do like Coby, like his whole sense of justice. Like he still wants to follow the. He still wants to be like a Marine, but he sees the Marine as this corrupt entity, which kind of is for the most part. But there are like more logical people like Smoker and Sengoku and Fujitora. Yeah, that are more sensible. Granted, Fujitora is not introduced until Dressrosa in canon, so we don't really know. Because I think he's introduced in Dressrosa. I can't remember specifically when. I know it's somewhere around Dressrosa. That's fine. But yeah, Coby has this sense of justice. Like his dream is like I have more. I would be able to basically save more people and more pirates and basically stop all the bad guys more if I'm a pirate instead of a marine, and that kind of carries him throughout the story. This idea that the marine that sometimes you don't have sometimes even like truthful organizations like the Marines can be corrupt to the core. We know that they are incredibly corrupt. And this story actually kind of acknowledges it near the end when Sengoku talks to Garp. It's like, yeah, I don't like the Marines. I don't like how the Marines operate, and I really don't like the fact that Celestial Dragons are basically doing a lot of legal stuff, but they're really the only way we get funding to go after the pirates. So we're forced to kind of let that slide. So yeah. He does have a great deal of justice. Like he's trying to appeal. There's a neat part where he kills for the first time. He's struggling with it and has to find the courage to just try and cope with it. Excuse me. And it's a neat little wrinkle to his character where he's more kind of dark, sort of more like an anti-hero sort of thing. I guess you can kind of call him like what Aokiji's going through. I know Aoki because okay, so I'm going to be spoiling One Piece because I know there's some. I know I have some subscribers that probably only watch the anime, and I don't know if they're gonna watch this video and listen to it. Uh, but the simple fact that Kuzan is like not Kuzan, Aoki. I guess you can call him Kuzan now. Kuzan slash Akiji is now like one of the top commanders of the Blackbeard pirates. Like he's like one that, yeah, he's like up there, and now he's like, and then he proceeds to get one shot by Garp. But then again, it's Garp, so I don't really know. Like there's a lot going on with like the One Piece right now, mainly about Vivi. Okay. Um, but back to the story. I do like Coby. I do think he's fine. Gin, I do like. This is gonna be a running gag for this video. I like these new characters. Gin's whole thing is that he only joins the Straw Hats because he doesn't really have a purpose. And when they ask him, it's like, well, you joined. What's your dream? He's like, oh no. And he thinks about it. He's like, you know what? Krieg failed at going across the Grand Line. My dream is I just want to see if I can go. I don't. Can I make it further than Krieg? Can I conquer the Grand Line and just travel across it? And it's a very simple dream. So he's basically kind of a psychopath. Yeah, he's a complete psychopath. Where like I said, the aforementioned moment where he just kills the guy in cold blood. He kills Enil. Basically gets the electric fruit, and he basically coats his tonfas in gold so that we conduct electricity better. He's kind of staying static. There is a neat thing where he's kind of like a hillbilly sort of thing. He has a hillbilly accent, but he hides it, and he kind of has like this little will they won't they with Miss Valentine because they're both. I guess turns out they're both sadists. But the neatest, interesting thing is where that is. I don't know. I don't know when specifically this happened. No, wait, it is. Where the hell? It's. I think it was here. I can't remember. I think it was either after Thriller or after Strong World, where it turns out that Gin actually developed split personality disorder. And so he basically gets a split personality. And the late little wrinkle is while Gin has access to the Thunder Devil fruit, his separate personality, Rum, who's basically is Gin without the morals, has the access to hockey. So basically Gin has the Logia abilities, Rum has the hockey. And he basically has like armament and observation hockey. And basically it's like, oh, you can't access that because I got it. Because I got it. I actually like that idea. The idea of a split personality of for a Devil Fruit user, and one half gets the Devil Fruit's abilities, and the other half gets the hockey. It's actually kind of a really, really cool idea. I know there is a prevailing theory for the One Piece guys that Blackbeard might actually have multiple personalities for it. Nothing's been confirmed. It's literally just a theory because of Blackbeard One Piece flag. Yeah, because of the theory that the since Blackbeard's Jolly Roger has like three skulls, it's like a clue that he has like three people. He technically has like three personalities all wrapped up into one. So he could theoretically get like three elephants. Again, that's a theory. I don't know if it's true. That would be really crazy if it was. But yeah, um, but yeah, you have that. But until then, Gin kind of is probably the weakest character of all of them because until the split personality happens, he pretty much kind of stays samey. Like he calls Luffy Don, and like a nod to Don Creed. Like yeah, okay. He does. He basically make. There's also a running gag with him. It's like I killed God. Because he kills Neil, who if you know who Neil, he's the guy who pretends he is God. It's like no, where did you get the fruit? It's like I killed God. That's not. You're lying. You're making it up. No, I seriously, I killed God. No, you didn't. No. Just tell the truth. Where did you get that fruit? I got it from killing God. I'm serious. Yeah, let's get you to the old person, old man. There we go. Take your medicine. But that's really it with Gin. Like I said, he's kind of the weak. He's technically no. Valentine would probably be the weakest character. Yeah, might as well talk about Valentine. So Miss Valentine, she really only joins the crew because she's in this story. Her and Miss Golden Week are actually are kind of adopted sisters. Their family actually knew each other, uh, but the rest of their entire little village and the island suffered a famine and they all passed away. And then basically they were the only ones left. They managed to get onto a pirate ship that had a doctor to cure them, and then they kind of slowly made their way through like the slavery system into Baroque works. And so they just basically once they find out that Crocodile is like, oh yeah, I'm going to take over and kill a bunch of people, just to get Pluton. It's like we're just going to join so that we don't want to get involved with that, which is true. Uh, and the author does do a little neat thing with Valentine and the fact that we start to see her fruit explored more, where she actually starts transferring the weight and density of the kilo fruit to other objects. Like she starts. But I like the idea of instead of weight, it's more density. That she actually makes things kind of like hockey esque without hockey because she can transfer the kilo fruit powers to like her umbrella, so she uses it as a makeshift shield to like reflect bullets and all that stuff. It's really neat, and the fact that she can that near the end she's starting to do it on like in like the episode of where is it? Right here, episode of no, that's episode of Grace. That's here where Amy ends up on a whole cake island. In the whole thing, Amy ends up with Big Mom, and it's revealed that she's actually starting to use the kilo stuff on liquids, and she's even able to use it. It's implied that she's even able to use it kind of on water. She's eventually going to use it on water. That would actually be a really cool idea. It's like she's lifting up water itself. It's like, yeah, yeah. It's a really neat idea. The problem is she doesn't have. She's probably the weakest character because all she is a sadist. Like there's a thing where she worried that Coby and Great and her sister are gonna fall in love, and she's like, "You want me to step on you? No, I'm gonna step on you. Please don't. Okay, I'll step on you. No." And there's a whole sadist aspect of it. It's really brought up a lot. So she's still at least a decent enough character. It helps that we again we're actually able to see more from her point of view and everything, and how she interacts with Coby and Grace and Gin and Mary and all that. Well, not so much Mary because Mary's like the odd one out. when it comes to specifically to with Grace, not with Amy and Gin. Mary more hangs out with Coby and Grace and Usopp. Um, begin. I mean, not Gin. Amy. There's so many characters. There's so many characters. Um, with Amy being like the whole thing with Gin and Coby and Grace. She's just she's really like the she's basically like the version of I guess you could say Sanji, in the fact that she's the one who kind of like has most of the jokes revolving around her, but she's the one who not so much Sanji, Robin, basically the Robin of this little section of the group, where a lot of the dark jokes come from her. She does have a lot of fun. She's a very fun esque character. I like it. Grace Golden Week, very lazy. Like it becomes a running gag for like parts of the story where like everyone's like commenting like Coby, he's whipped. It's like, why? Coby, carry me. Why? I don't want to move. Fine. He's whipped. And of course, Grace has the color traps, but she gets like more. She becomes more of a support character amongst the crew. Like instead of being on the front line, she basically acts like like a sort of red mage sort of thing, where she casts like a bunch of status effects, and also buffs the other person because she gets access to like other colors like adrenaline amber, which she paints the symbol on everyone's somewhere on the body, and basically some react faster and in essence kind of gives them like a pseudo gear second effect. And I mean, literally on everyone else. Yeah. Uh, had to take a call for a second. Uh, but yeah, the adrenaline amber sort of thing gives it like I said, a pseudo gear second ability to everyone. Uh, she gains like offensive paints. Like she has like a black paint that basically acts like acid. She teams up. She can combine paints together to basically double the effects and also make paint explode. And then near the end, she basically eats like a chemical based fruit because the color traps are actually not only just paint, but there's actually uh, excuse me, like magnesium and like a mixture of chemicals layered into the paint to get the effect. So basically, it's like a lot. It's actually explained pretty well. It's a bunch of chemicals that she actually mixes up separate from everyone. And then when she's mixing the paint, she mixes that mixture into the paint. So that way, when she hits them with it, it actually goes into their body and invokes certain responses from during neurological responses from the brain. So it's pretty neat that this is actually something that can actually counter stuff like hockey, because since it's not so much physical, but it's more neurological. It can literally just go in through like the skin or the nose or the eyes, and you won't be able to get anything from it. So unless you're like a Logia, you won't be able to get like much. You won't be able to counter it. Either Logia or like you're wet. So it'll be a little thing. And of course, she gets the chemical fruit. But that's not like at the very end of the story. That actually happens in literally right here, which is like the second to last moment she actually gets in the story. So there's not much in the way of implementation of that fruit because it's just she just gets it way too late. I know there's a sequel that happens in the New World, so you know. Um, but let's see. Excuse me. I'm actually getting very tired. And then finally, there's Mary. No, wait, I'm not done with. Yeah, more or less done with Grace. Oh yeah, Grace does have a little thing where she falls in love with Coby. Like I said, with the whole thing with Amy, they do have a little dynamic where she doesn't trust herself to truly fall in love because she's worried that something bad might happen or she might not be good enough because she's not a fighter. And then Kobe starts giving her physical training and she's like still very lazy. And it's like, but she's still putting her heart into it because it's like it's what Kobe wants. But everyone's like, Kobe's whipped, still whipped. Whoosh. Get that painter girl, what? And yeah, there's a lot to love about Grace. I think she's probably the best character of the group because the author puts in like a surprising amount of work into the fact that she's pretty much like literally just a very frail kid. Despite the fact physically she's like 16, she can't really do much. At least like Usopp has like his Usoppness and his clever genius stuff, and Nami has the climb attack she's actually useful with. Grace always she's strictly a support person, so she can't really she's not a fighter. Like she's very much not a fighter. But I do love what the author dealt her. And finally, Mary. I do love Mary. However, she feels more like a mascot character, like Chopper. It's kind of sad. I do like what she uses. The fact that with her and Thriller Bark specifically, like her whole laugh is like bah, she basically laughs like a goat, like a goat, bah, ha, 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 sort of like that. And she also has different aspects of all of the Straw Hats up until Frankie, because Frankie wasn't on the ship long enough for her to really figure out how he works, especially since Frankie really only joins the crew at the end of War 7, so he's not on the ship long enough to really get anything. And he kind of vaguely has some memories with Robin. She's very multilingual. She's very fun. She's actually kind of the funny character of the group, like the actual funny character. A lot of the comedy, and especially in the second half of the story, is directly from her cursing like a sailor, her having like the certain abilities of like all the characters. So she basically works like Polly from Galila with the rope knots. She has a lot of rope based ticks. She basically just headbutts people like a goat. Again, makes sense. She bah. But she gets like personality traits. So she gets like uh, Zoro's lack of direction, Luffy's like hyperactivity, Nami's smarts, it's never really implied what she gets from everyone else. She gets Robin's wisdom, but it's kind of vague what she gets from Sanji and Chopper. I know she gets the sadism from Amy and Gin, and she gets the laziness from Grace. And she's kind of like a master of all, a jack of all trades sort of character. So she kind of knows she could theoretically kind of do like she wanted to. She can use the sword, she can use the climb attack. She doesn't, but I like the implication that she can actually use them because she's seen them. She literally seen them training enough that she can kind of use them, even the Tampas. And of course, she can even use the chemicals and all that. So there's a lot she can do. She kind of fulfills the support thing along with Grace, but it's more she's kind of like a wild card sort of support character. It's like she can support, but then randomly she can just go to the front lines, like headbutt, Mary. But she's also like designed like a little 8-year-old kid. Just picture like a little 8-year-old running at you, and she's dressed in like a little white rain, like a white dress, very loose white dress. It's covering her legs and with like little straps, and she's coming at you with a little hammer. And she had like and she's white hair, and she had little horns. It's like, oh, that's so cute. And then she hits you, and then she sends you 20 feet that way, but just lightly tapping you with the hammer. Mary Hammer. It stops being cute and starts being absolutely terrifying. but she still she still is an enjoyable character because, again, despite all these characters being basic, the fact that we focus on them a lot. Granted, Mary has an excuse because she doesn't really because she kind of shows up the least because she only shows up at the end of. She only shows up here near the halfway point of the story. And the fact that, and if we take this and we go to like the area where she stops being relevant, she stops being relevant like at this here. So we only have like 35, about 40 chapters to get used to her. Because once Sabori happens, Kuma shows up, basically just teleports them everywhere. Of course, Mary having the rope skill, she ends up in Galley Law. So she hangs out with Iceberg, and then of course Kaku's there. Spoilers: Kaku kind of leaves CP9, and it's like, well, I like being a shipwright. I love giraffes. I have to do this. I love giraffes. Giraffes are awesome. I have to do it. I was showing my friend all the Kaku stuff, and she's just laughing at the whole I love giraffes thing. I love giraffes. But yeah, the fact that we get like such a substantial amount of character because she's still a very fun-loving character. She's actually like a kid. She's absolutely terrifying. She kind of impacts the story because she kind of impacts Marineford inadvertently because the reason why Moby Dick becomes like human is because of the simple fact it's like, no, I'm not letting this little Caradel show me up. Yeah. And all that jazz. And she's just a very enjoyable character. Which, again, that kind of boils down to the fact that it focuses a lot on her. It kind of focuses on her the least because by that point there's so many characters that you kind of a situation where you can't catch up. Even when the story's only focusing on like the new characters and Luffy and Nami, it still becomes kind of tight, and Mary's mostly used for more comedic moments, which is fine. She still gets some time to shine. Like in Thriller Bark, she's the one who fights Kamasi instead of Usopp. Usopp basically fights Piranha. But yeah, and there's also the fact that she's the only one at the time where she's the altar had a restrictor because her life is like connected to the wooden heart that was like the leftover piece from the Going Mary, and so if that breaks, then Mary dies, and that was already cracked. So once it cracks, you can't really do much with her until she ends up at Galley 8A. They use like some of the atom wood that they use to make the Thousand Sunny to kind of reinforce the heart and basically make her a replacement. And now it's like, now she can take more damage and all that jazz. And then there's Billy. He's just a bird. He's literally just a bird. He's an electrical bird, but he's a bird. Yeah, he shows up around Strong World. Yeah, he's just there. He does get like a more comedic moment in, I think, I do know he talks in Karoo kind of talks in the chapter. Oh yeah, Billy ends up in Alabasta mainly so he can hang out with Karoo because where are you gonna put a bird? Where are you gonna put a bird except with like Karoo, the supersonic duck? But yeah, seeing, reading the story and reading those characters, it really just kind of is sad that they don't really gel with with the non with everyone not count no what's the word, they don't really gel well with the non Luffy and Nami Straw Hats. And it's kind of a shame that it's like, oh, you can do stuff, but instead they're just treated as just there for the most part. It's sad. It's really sad. Uh, Grammar wise, there's a lot of grammar errors, which is kind of understanding because you can't see it here. I don't think it's up here. Um, yeah, it's not here, but I do know he had like a beta page on the FanFiction app, and he mentioned that English is not his first language, so I can kind of forgive the grammar errors. There's a lot of grammar errors though, but with the pacing, on the other hand, oh, okay, this is why I brought this story up. So, misconceptions. Misconceptions is a Powerpuff Girls fic, and I reviewed it a long, long time ago, a couple years ago. And this story is really, really shaky in terms of the plot and the pacing. Because the story, I praised the story for the character work, and it's really, really good. If you're, like I said in that review, if you want to read a story with really, really great character work, you read this story. However, I criticize the story for being so damn slow. This story is glacial. Despite the fact that it reads 1 million, over a million words, it's actually about 800,000. Because if we go to the end, oh, right, I think it should be at the end. Yep. Let's see, where is it? Yeah. This story is officially, no, 900, it's 932,000 words. I'm off by 100,000. So almost 100,000 words is just the author notes. That is an insanely long story. I don't know why, like, half of my face is. Yeah, that's a very, very long story. And what happened was, I criticized the fact that the story was way too slow. The story is glacially slow. And that brings me to my connection to this story. This is like the opposite. Misconceptions moves way too slow to make any to really truly enjoy it. This story moves way too fast. I think the story should have been slower. Because let me put it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chapters 1 to 5 are basically all of East Town. No, East Blue. And then chapter 6 to 20 is Alabasta, all Alabasta. But once you get to that, you have filler, Jaya, these 3 chapters, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 chapters for Skypiea, and I'll tell you what, I actually finished the story in like a week. I literally finished the story in literally under a week. Because on my first day reading the story, I started here. I got to here in one day, and that was with work because I was working that day. So in one day, only like I think 5 hours of reading, I got to 30 chapters. And I took a break because the next day was like a very busy day of work, and after that, I ended up getting all the way here. So this story moves by lightning quick. So you're not given a sense of absorbing everything because so much is, despite being the same, it cuts out a lot of chaff from certain arcs to basically so basically me like a more abridged version of this, and thus it kind of feels very rushed. And I think that's the best way of saying it. Like the longest part of the story is Thriller Bark. That's like nearly 25 chapters. That's 23 chapters. Thriller Bark is the longest part of the story. That should say something. And that's because Thriller Bark is like the only chapter, the only arc that like actually took the time to let everything breathe enough. But everything else is still rushed. Even Marineford, like one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 9 chapters of for Marineford is it feels rushed, but at least I'm willing to get like an excuse for Marineford. That's a very fast paced arc, so you can't really do much with fixing the pacing on that. But the fact that it moves so fast, and by the time and you don't even realize it's moving that fast because everything just flows somewhat chaotically. I'm not a fan of that. I don't I can and I can I would excuse the fast pacing if the character work was at least better, or at least it felt it, or at least we got like that true camaraderie between all the Straw Hats the instead of just Coby and Grace and Amy. But their characters aren't really good enough to salvage the fast pace. With Misconceptions, the pacing was so glacially. So I make a joke every once in a while saying that Misconceptions literally, I kid you not, this story has a part where Buttercup is trying to escape from Mojo Jojo City, his citadel, and she's running down an alleyway while she's being chased, and then she sees a pile of girders, and then the story just completely grinds to a halt to showcase about 5 to 7 paragraphs of just describing that girder. That is so fucking stupid. I can't. That is sad. However, I gave Misconceptions the excuse because the character work made up for it. I can't say the same about Coby's choice. The characters are just not good enough to justify just how blistering fast this is. I get the reason why it's so fast paced because again, this is one of those stories that's kind of expecting you to know how the arcs play out, so you know what changes and what doesn't change, and that's fine. And I would have been fine with like the very very shortened versions of the arcs if the character were as strong as in Misconceptions. Because the characters are just not strong enough to carry the story. I would have been okay with a character centric story to salvage the pacing, but you can't the character you can't survive, you can't read the story. Would I recommend it? I do like the story. Don't get me wrong, the story has a lot good for it. It's very entertaining. It you can tell that the author put a lot of work into it and his ideas and everything. And the fact that it is a very it's very faithful to One Piece and still keeps a lot of the One Piece vibe to it. But I can't recommend it. Not with the characters as shallow as it is. When you have half of the Straw Hats be are either one dimensional or just a caricature of their character in canon, you're not doing something right. Especially since they barely ever interact with all the new members. They barely if ever do it, and it's not even. And all it really is just, oh, here's some extra info about that character. It doesn't work, and the fact that the story takes a while to set up. Do you want to know when the story actually starts getting good? I forgot that also G8 is here. It starts getting good around chapter fast. The fact that you have to get to 50 chapters before it even gets good. That's that combined with the very lackluster characters, despite how much I like them, they're still very lackluster characters. Like great Golden Week is the best written character out of all of them. And that's only because of like all the work the author did into explaining like how her color charts work and also her little camaraderie with Amy and Coby. But that still doesn't salvage everyone else when Grace is the best written character. And that's sad. If I want to like the story, I really do. I can't, and that hurts because I really, I still like the idea. What would I change? First off, fix the grammar errors. That's easy. Second, if you're going to keep the arcs short, which is fine, then give us like some in between each major arc. Have all the Straw Hats give us a couple of chapters of the Straw Hats just interacting with each other. Give us some dimensions in how the old Straw Hats interact with the Phantom Straw with Coby and everyone. Because if you make all these characters better, I would say even like I would be fine with the pacing as is. It just you just need the character work just needs to be better, especially from the Straw Hats that don't get that are pretty much shafted in the story, like Usopp and Zoro and Frankie and Chopper. Yeah, just make a couple new chapters in between each major arc of them just interacting, hanging out. Just give us something to think, something of a buffer in between arcs for us to kind of process everything that happened, so our brains can just mentally catch up. If you do that, I think I can recommend that. I can recommend the story, but as it is right now, I can't. I literally can't. I really don't want to. Also, get rid of Billy. Just honestly, I get no, keep Billy because Billy's mainly going to be useful with Mary. Because Mary, I don't know. I'm split on whether or not to keep Billy. I'm more tempted to just get Billy because Billy just, it's just bad. Billy's just there. If you want to keep Billy, that's fine. I'm not gonna force you to get rid of him. But still, it's it's weird that I do like the story and I want it to be better. But as it is, right now, I can't. I literally can't. I have a feeling that the author's probably gonna like that. Oh, please understand, author. I want the story to be good. I really do. Oh, just give us the buffers. Just give us the buffers, like one or two chapters of just all the Straw Hats interact with each other, just to let everything sink in and kind of get ready to build back up. I think that could be good. But yeah, as it stands right now, I can't. I just can't. So this has been Dark Symphony 777 with Coby Choice Paradise. I will see you next time, and cut.